is not real. It's a dream. It's not real.
Oh my God! I immediately fell to the ground and I cried.
Call Grandpa!
We got a guy who just killed a child.
What we walked into really turned out to be a bit of a shock.
Anybody home with you guys right now?
Who knows what he can do?
One of the first things we look for, who has a video camera?
I'm positive.
We have to play their game.
Why? We always have a backup.
Sometimes we have to think like a killer to catch a killer.
He comes stumbling back in, and I see blood.
Walmart Police. County. First stabbing.
Please, my niece is on this.
Ma'am, listen to me. I need you to take a breath for me, okay?
I am.
Where did she get stabbed at?
I don't know, it looks like in her chest. I don't know, she's laying on my
Is she
floor.
breathing?
She's breathing, but yeah.
Okay.
She's breathing.
Listen, is she able to talk to you?
No, she's like...
Is she losing consciousness?
Yeah. Please.
Okay, where is she now?
She's on my floor. Please. Just get a cop here.
Long Branch Police dispatch officers to the scene, a multi-level home in a quiet neighborhood.
When the call came in, I was just a few blocks south of that, so I basically headed directly there, and I activated my body camera. We didn't know at that point really who the victim was, and we didn't know the extent of their injuries when we arrived, so what we walked into really turned out to be a bit of a shock.
Oh my God!
While I was walking up, you could hear screaming.
Dad, please! Please, oh my God.
My focus at that time was just getting into the house and getting to the victim.
Where's the staff? You got any gloves? You got another pair of gloves? We got a light?
Just take these. I got more in the
Flashlights, I don't care, something.
As I walked in, you could see it looked like a bloody handprint on the wall, kind of smeared down, kind of going down to where this girl was laying.
Madison, stay with us.
Oh, come on, back up.
Tina!
Please step outside.
No, she's not.
Hey, Jason, we're here right now. We need light.
The other people in the house actually turned out to be members of her family.
Casey, calm down.
Madison, stay with us.
At that point, we learned that her name was Madison.
Madison, stay with us. Madison, stay with us.
Her lips are turning blue.
You want to open that mask?
Yeah.
Well, if she...
EMTs arrive and work on Madison to regain consciousness.
Do you have the tank circle?
We have another tank if somebody wants to run out.
We got it right here.
We have a pulse, you said?
Yep, just check that.
I can grab it.
I'll just grab it.
How do we,
You want me to do bag valve?
Yep. Once he gets the airway in, I'll start bagging.
You really never know what you're going to have when you show up at a scene like that.
CPR in progress.
In this case, it was very serious.
She's bleeding, right here is the only one I see. She's not even actively bleeding anymore.
Let these guys do their work right now. Let them do their job right now.
There was 3 of us there. We're taking turns doing CPR on her. At that point, you're trying to figure out how to control the bleeding.
Madison, I got a breath. Is she breathing? I have a breath. She's gasping.
Should we stretch her out?
Madison, come on. Madison, stay with us.
Check that pulse.
You check the pulse because I wasn't feeling anything.
What do I do?
If she does have a pulse, it's very faint. She got a very, very faint pulse. Unless that's me.
Come on, Madison, stay with us, stay with us. Come on, wake up.
It was paralyzing. You know, I hoped for the best, you know, and I kept trying to tell myself that it's gonna be okay. You know, she's gonna be okay.
Madison was my little sister, but she was also my best friend. I just heard Madison and stabbed. And so the whole world froze. I immediately felt like a big surge of anger come out of me because I didn't know Madison where she was stabbed. I didn't know how bad it was. I just heard she was stabbed. I was really frustrated. I didn't know what was going on. My adrenaline was crazy.
Back at the scene, additional officers arrive to provide support.
Sorry, we're just gonna let the EMT know that we're doing compression scan.
Okay, should we pass now?
Yeah, they're trying to find a pulse. We can't find a pulse on her the second time around.
Guys, hurry up!
EMTs prepare to transport Madison to the hospital.
Which way are we going around the car?
Hop on the other side. Alright, let's get her up now. Grab some legs, grab some arms. There we go. I'll grab this arm, you got that arm. 1, 2, 3. There we go. God. Oh my God. Whoa, brother. Oh, that's my daughter, man. Guys, I'm picking her up and it's my hand. I'm sorry. Hold Grandpa now. Hold Grandpa. Throw this in there with them. You want me to ride with you guys? Yeah.
Move over there now. This is the ambulance. Come through.
Yeah.
There's no way.
But it became very clear that while we did need to get her stabilized, we did need to get her to a hospital.
Hang in there, Maddie.
Bag's right there. Bag's right there. Are we closing this?
Yeah.
Right there.
Gonna be a lot of blood.
No. They got to stabilize her. That's what. Just.
That's not
I know.
okay.
I know.
That's not okay.
Are you guys going?
I'm waiting on ALS telling me what to do.
Okay. People generally assume that when you get a person in the ambulance, the first thing you do is, you slam the door shut, and then you jump in the ambulance, and then you take off immediately to the hospital. But sometimes the better thing that you can do is really trying to stabilize them before you get them moving to the hospital, so they're stable for that transport.
Come on, Maddie. Can we move them away from the
Come on, Maddie. Guys, come on. Just go stand over there, guys. You have her family members in the background, screaming and calling out for her. They're all very obviously upset, and it winds up almost being kind of like this organized chaos.
I can't look. I can't look.
Come on, Maddie.
You alright?
Yeah.
You guys see anything?
They're going to switch off before them pass out from work.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Are you going to,
I think they're on the phone with the doc now.
say what?
They're on the phone with the doc now, probably for announcement maybe.
Seriously?
I'm not too sure yet. I'm talking now. Pass out.
Okay.
I'll let you know. Open this.
Sir.
We worked very hard to save her. I really felt like we gave her the best fighting chance, and we really hoped that she was going to make it through it. I found out a little while later that doctors at the hospital did declare her dead. And at that point, our focus really becomes on now finding the person who did this to her.
"16-year-old Madison Wells has died of a stab wound, leaving behind her sister, father, and an aunt."
We grew up in Florida. We had a smaller family. After our mom passed away, I immediately took the role as, trying to be a role model for her. It was really hard to pretty much raise your little sister because the circumstances we were in weren't that good. So that was kind of our way of bonding together and becoming closer. She liked to do little dance challenges. I would always record her when she would dance.
Me and Madison were very close. She would always play with my girls. Yeah, we were very, very close.
Anybody she wanted to be friends with, she could make friends within 5 minutes of talking to them. She was very genuine. She was always sweet. When I saw Madison, I kind of knew that she wasn't gonna make it. I was waiting outside the hospital and I said, "Is my sister dead?" And he didn't answer me. And so when he didn't answer me, I knew that my sister was dead. Everybody was in shock, pretty much. I immediately, fell to the ground. I fell to the ground and I cried.
They weren't telling us anything. I just wanted to go in. I just wanted to go in and see my kid. Say goodbye. I don't know. I just wanted to see my daughter. And they wouldn't let us. It was really surreal. Tina said, "What are we supposed to do now? Just go home, go to sleep like nothing ever happened?" And that's what happened.
Back at the crime scene, the murder investigation begins.
Understanding I'm being called, and you're going to have 2 Class 2s that are going to be securing the scene with Morgan until the DP gets there. I don't know which guy's bathroom this is. 272's guy for you.
At that point, calls are being made to the detectives. Their supervisor will be notified, and he'll start calling out people to show up to the scene.
I was sent back to the scene after Madison was taken to the hospital to help secure it. I remember the likely murder weapon was laying on the ground right at the end of the driveway, right where it meets the street. And I remember looking down, and it was a long steak knife blade. Seeing that blade made it clear how Madison's injuries were so severe. At that point, the investigation portion really begins.
Detectives Joe Spitali and Mike Verdadero arrive and take the lead.
Be careful on the blade.
As I entered into the residence, I observed the foyer area, and it was saturated with Madison's blood.
What got me more attached to this investigation is her age. She was a young girl, 16 years old, and I have younger daughters, so that it's all of a sudden more of a father instinct kicked in. Like, I'm gonna get this bad guy,
We began collecting all the license plate information from vehicles parked on the street outside the house. It allows us to identify who was at or near the scene at the time of the crime.
We're trying to find out who actually committed the stabbing. Pretty much any lead that could help us solve this. We canvassed the area to look for surveillance video. Basically, good old-fashioned police work. We knock on doors, ask people if they saw anything, anybody other, any witnesses in the area.
Back at the house, officers interview Madison's family, starting with Madison's aunt, Casey Wells, who discovered Madison and called 911.
You mind giving me a quick, just tell me what happened as far as like, I know he picked her up today, right?
Yeah, I picked her up last night. Earlier tonight, me, my sister, and my boyfriend were sitting in the living room.
What time did you pick her up at?
I'd say around like 9-ish.
Okay.
Like around 9.
From where?
She lived on Cleveland Ave.
Oh, you picked her up from her house?
Yeah.
Casey brought her over to her house. Casey stated that Madison went outside for approximately an hour. Someone called Madison outside to speak with her that night.
What time was this when she came here and said she was going to go out there?
Like around 9:30, 9:40.
So 9:30?
So then she comes stumbling back in, and I see blood.
Upon Madison returning into the residence, she stated to Casey, "He stabbed me," and collapsed to the floor in the foyer. And that's when Casey called 911.
Investigators can't be sure who Madison was meeting. But Casey says Madison did have a boyfriend, someone she only knows as Brian.
It's just weird, and this whole relationship has been weird to me, and she had cut me out of her life because I kind of sensed something. I had a weird feeling from the gate about him, but...
So,
This was really crazy.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry.
It's alright.
But I called her, because I was like, and she had told me they'd broken up, or whatever. They broke up.
Brian, what? You see those your last name? It's gotta be the same.
What's his last name?
His name's Cordero. Correo.
What?
If I'm correct. Your boyfriend, Brian Cordero.
Relationship headquarters, I'm riding the Long Branch First Aid Compliment.
In like 2 hours, he doesn't pop up.
We believe that Brian could definitely be involved in this. It's unclear if Brian was there. Nobody actually saw Brian. We weren't sure yet. And it's still not clear if there was any other involvements by any other individuals at that time.
Officers investigating the murder of Madison Wells have learned the name of her ex-boyfriend, Brian Cordero Castro, and continue to collect information about him. They speak with the boyfriend of Madison's Aunt Casey at the crime scene to learn more.
How long was she with him?
She's probably been with him for about a year.
Okay. Do you know how she met him? Where she met him at? Or?
She worked over at
The restaurant?
Yeah, the one right by
Yeah. So does he work there too?
He did at that time. He was a server, I believe, when she was a hostess. From what I was just told tonight, they both got fired. I knew she got fired a little while ago, but he got fired too. And now
What did they get?
Working at
Where is that?
over up there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Whatever that one
Yeah.
Across the street from the TD Bank.
Okay. All right. What they get fired for?
I couldn't even tell you.
No idea.
Like I said, I just found out about it today.
No. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
She's a baby, dude. She's a little girl, bro.
Based on this new information, detectives begin considering motive.
He described him as an Hispanic male, around 19, maybe 20 years.
Madison and Brian were in a relationship for approximately 1 year. That's a long time. Also, they worked together at a restaurant in Long Branch. It's a red flag for law enforcement, and we need to look at that person.
Madison's aunt, Casey Wells, volunteers to help confirm Brian's identity at the station.
Once we find out the name of an individual, such as Brian Cordero Castro, we would then do a 6-pack photo array with a witness to confirm that indeed that picture of Brian Cordero Castro is the ex-boyfriend of Madison Wells.
I'm Officer, tell your name.
Casey Wells.
Casey Wells. I'm gonna read this to you word for word, and we'll go through the process, okay? In a moment, I will show you 6 photographs, one at a time. You may take as much time as you need to look at each of them.
We need to be 100% sure that the photo of Brian Cordero Castro is the person that Madison Wells was in a relationship with.
That's it. I'm positive number 2 is him. I don't need to look any further. Number 2. I'm sticking with number 2.
Okay. You need to go back to the photos?
No.
Casey positively identified the picture of Brian, which was in the photo array, as Madison Wells' boyfriend.
Officers locate an address for Brian and send squad cars to his house.
Anybody home with you guys right now?
Casey? Huh?
Brian home with you guys?
No.
Alright. You know where he might have went? No. Mind if I step in?
Get a search warrant and do a search of the house to see if we can find Brian.
Given permission to enter, the police canine unit searches the home.
See his size? Little. It's like 5'3", 140. There's a couple of them I didn't check.
I gotta take my gun out, cautiously and just protect me and everybody around me. Not check back there.
There's no trace of Brian inside. Officers next search the backyard.
That's why. It was a backup. Yep.
After a lengthy search, Brian is nowhere to be found.
I knew this was going to be tough. We didn't know where he was. We don't know if, positively that he's our suspect. He could be anywhere. We need to speak to Brian right away, so they either clear him from this or talk to him and see what his involvement was. If there's somebody else out there, we need to know about it right away.
With Brian in the wind, detectives decide to track his phone to get a current location. Unsure of which cell service Brian uses, investigators call several mobile phone carriers to find out.
Hi, this is Colin with Verizon Security. May I have your name and agency, please?
Corporal Gant, Long Branch Police Department.
What can I do for you today, ma'am?
I have a phone number I would like to try to ping. I don't know if it's Verizon or not.
Gotcha. Yeah, we can find out. What's the number? All right, let me check it out. One moment.
Thank you.
So that number is showing to belong to Sprint PCS.
Sprint?
Yep.
Investigators next call Sprint to locate Brian's phone.
What's the nature of the emergency?
We just had a homicide and he is an armed accused.
Okay. What are you needing of us, a ping and anything else?
Just a ping, if we could try to get a location on this accused.
Okay.
We learned that his phone was turned off, and that was unsuccessful in trying to ping it. But it's part of the investigation process. We have to use all our resources. We have to try everything. We can't let nothing be out of the question.
Without a GPS location for Brian's phone, detectives return to the crime scene to locate surveillance cameras in the area.
Video cameras have changed the way we do investigations over the last probably 5 years. One of the first things we look for as we're walking around the area where it happened is who has a video camera.
During the canvass, I know they located cameras on Ocean Avenue at a residence.
The camera is just 1 block from the murder scene. Police queue up the footage to 10:39 p.m., around the time of the murder.
We saw an image of a subject running across towards the ocean area. It was an amazing feeling. Not every day we get that lucky. I mean, there are times that we do have video, but sometimes the camera's not pointing in that direction. Sometimes the camera's just not working. But in this particular case, we got lucky.
Madison Wells' family struggles with the loss of their loved one.
The school vigil, it was really quiet. Everybody was still in shock. It was only 3 days after. There was hundreds of people there. So she had a lot of people that loved her and cared about her. The cops were there. The whole football team from Long Branch High School was there.
I was overwhelmed when that happened. I was totally blown away. It just goes to show you how many people that Madison's lives touched. You know, it's like anywhere she went, she made a friend. It was wonderful. It was really heartwarming for my family that so many people cared. She was just a lovable person.
I remember sitting at the service and there was this boy she went to school with and he was such a wreck, and I sat down with him and, I tried to console him the best I could, but, I couldn't help my heart. I felt it, Madison, you know, she was loved by many people, and yeah, she's gonna be missed.
Back at the station, police tracked the killer's movements immediately after the murder.
I'll never forget, there was a couple of surveillance cameras right there pointing to a side street where we see him walking toward the house. Another camera showed him walking into the back area where there were some people hanging out drinking. So our objective was to get the subject as soon as possible.
Detectives dispatch officers to the house seen on camera to make an arrest.
We got a guy who just killed a child, and he's out there. Who knows what he can do? We made a decision, let's go to this house. We got to the house, we knocked on the door. When you open the door, the kitchen's right there, and I see him. That's Brian.
After we take Brian out of the house, and then as I escort him to the patrol unit, Brian does not say that he was actually involved with the murder of Madison.
Nikes. Air Jordans, they're kind of mudded up.
Due to the fact that we had conflicting witness statements.
Yeah.
What shirt were you wearing and what shoes were you wearing before?
At night, sometimes people get the description of clothing wrong due to ambient lighting. One witness stated that he may have had a white shirt on.
That's what you had on? You sure? You didn't change?
How am I going to change?
You were here at your cousin's house, right?
I was gone like 1 minute.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't need to lie.
No, I'm not saying a lie. I'm asking a question. Thank you for being honest.
Detectives transport Brian back to the station for questioning.
They were taking off his sneakers, and he uttered the word bye, like saying goodbye to them. He tried to run out the booking area.
There was a big sergeant at the time that was able to grab him before he got away. That was pretty wild that he tried to escape, and to me, my personal belief, not as a detective talking or any legal way, to me, that's a sign of guilt. You know, why are you going to run if you didn't do anything? Myself, Detective Joe Spitali, and Detective Wayne Rayner, we do a little huddle, and we come up with this plan and how we're going to interview him.
Take a seat right there.
Police leave Brian to sit in the interrogation room.
Detective Spitali is great in the box, as we call it. Great to getting people to talk, and he's been doing that job for a very long time, so he's very, very good at it.
Brian, how you doing? How you doing, Brian? I'm Mike Ferdadero. Okay?
Hi, Brian. Joe Spitali.
Brian, I'm Wayne Rayner.
When I'm about to interview a suspect, it's so important to have a rapport with these individuals, because if you don't, they're not gonna want to talk to you. Whatever makes them comfortable, they'll give you more.
You know why you're here, but before I speak to you, I still got to read you what's called the constitutional rights, and you got to understand your rights. And if you want to speak to me, you know, you sign the form that you want to speak to me. Okay? So you just turned, how old? You just turned 19? No. 18? No. You
20.
20. Oh, I'm bad at math.
3 days.
And, what's your phone number?
I don't have a phone.
You have a phone?
I lost my phone.
Where did you lose your phone? Where did you lose your phone?
I don't know.
He basically gave us a load of crap, excuse my language.
Detectives ask Brian about the last time he saw Madison.
So she came over for money, you said?
Yeah, for a card.
How much money she want?
14.
$14?
Yeah.
Where was she gonna go?
to work.
To work, you said, yeah.
But she work in the morning and I work in the afternoon.
Okay.
So I give the money to her.
Brian, during this interview process, is starting to, tell us little bits and pieces. So we have to continue to press him and keep the pressure on him.
We know what happened and how it happened. That's done. But I'm curious why.
Yeah, she break up with me.
Okay.
Because I already know the answer.
She broke up with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
She break up with me.
Right.
I told her. Explained to her. I didn't do anything to her.
Okay.
So she cheated on me.
She cheated on you?
She cheated on me this morning. This
that's
morning
terrible.
I know. Yeah, this morning I know. And my friend, he told me he saw her with another guy. I didn't kill her. That was my friend.
You didn't kill her?
No, that was my friend.
How do you know she's dead?
Well, my friend, he told me.
What friend? Who's your friend?
Un amigo. Yo llamé a mi amigo.
¿Cuál amigo?
Angel.
Angel what?
I don't really know the last name. Just like that he told me about everything.
He what?
He told me about everything.
Angel told you about everything?
We can't rule out there's no person named Angel. There's even a little bit of a doubt that there's somebody else involved that can compromise the whole investigation.
Investigators working the Madison Wells homicide are interviewing her ex-boyfriend, Brian Cordero Castro, who has identified his friend, Angel, as her killer.
My friend, he told me he saw her with another guy.
We let him say whatever he wants. He'll say that he was with it. Angel was there. He was with him. He saw Angel do it. We'll go along with that for some time, and then we put a stop to it. I don't even want to talk to you. If you're lying to me.
I'm not lying.
We have evidence that you were there.
Yeah, I was there.
You're the one who killed her. Stop. Don't put Angel.
Me?
Yes.
Me?
Yeah, you're throwing Angel. Angel's in heaven with God. The angels. You were there.
Yeah, with my friend.
You were there by yourself.
She told us.
She told us.
Madison.
We had him believing that Madison was alive and that she told us he did it.
We talked to Madison, okay? There's cameras out there, there's witnesses.
Sometimes we might have to lie a little ourselves to get him to talk. A neighbor saw you there by yourself, or a camera across the street saw you there. We have to play their game. We have to think like them. Sometimes we have to think like a killer to catch a killer.
I really love her.
I know. I bet. You know what? I could see it. I bet you really loved her. I know. We all know you loved her. I know. She loved her a lot. But something happened, and I know it happened, and I want you to be honest with me.
When I started dating to her, she promised she's going to be loyal to me.
She promised she's gonna what?
She's going to be loyal.
Loyal. She's gonna be loyal to you.
She promised to me.
It's our job to give you the tools to understand, to make the right decisions, okay? You don't wanna lie yourself into a corner. Talk to me how you were feeling while you were standing there talking to her. How did it go?
Bad.
Bad in what way?
Like really bad because everything what I did to her.
You love it?
Yeah.
Were you sad? Were you angry? Were you a mix of everything? Angry?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. What happened?
That's what I did.
And what did you do?
What I did to her.
Listen, you went like this, did to her. What's that mean? And you went like this.
I don't know how to explain.
Well, explain in Spanish.
Say it in Spanish, and I'll tell you.
Lady? Okay.
Le diste con qué? What's the thing? What did you use?
Knife.
A knife? So you killed her?
Yeah, me.
You said you stabbed her with a knife.
It's a little difficult. He didn't want to say that he actually committed the crime. But Brian started opening up. He told us pretty much everything. He even demonstrated how he stabbed her.
She was in her phone.
Oh, she was on her phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then she take my phone.
Okay. So now she has your phone?
Yeah, well.
Okay.
Then I do it like this.
With your right hand?
Yeah.
Okay. What did she say when that happened?
I run.
Run?
Yeah.
It was like the weight was off our chest. We knew we had our guy, but There's a lot of investigative work still left to do. While we were in the interview with Brian, we were downloading Madison's cell phone. It showed that Brian texts Madison hundreds of times that day, just obsessed with her.
It created a motive for the crime. And we all know from watching a lot of movies, jealous rage, people do horrific things when their relationship is ended. Some people handle it well, some people want to kill.
Brian Cordero Castro is charged with the first-degree aggravated manslaughter of Madison Wells and pleads guilty to 30 years in prison, plus 5 additional years for trying to escape police custody.
It's an amazing feeling to get justice for not only Madison, but Madison's family.
It was a good feeling to know that the family knows the truth. Yet, you know, there was no happiness in there. They just lost a loved one.
I wish I could have told her that I'm sorry. That I couldn't protect her how a big sister should.
Madison was well on her way. Well on her way. She just got to the point of being what she wanted to be. It's got into her life. It's just not fair. It's not fair. The hardest part, seeing her picture every morning.
I just want my niece back, you know. I miss and I love my niece. I just want my niece back.
I want people to remember Madison as innocent, as a nice, sweet young girl with a lot of personality, and somebody who would have had a lot going for them in their future if they were let alone to have it.